What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That's Jim Mennie. He's over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, I don't know. Let's pick a place to start. I want to save the thing about the foreign students coming in here towards the end. But let me begin because you have a rather interesting note here. The Quebec nation doesn't trust François Legault, survey suggests. What's this about?
Isn't that great? The Legault government is really big on making announcements, right? And they're really big on making great monumental moves forward for the old Quebec nation. The fact of the matter is, and you have to get my hats off to Léger Marketing because they have such a devious sense of fun. But during their latest survey, they also decided to ask their respondents, do you believe the following things will happen under the Legault government? And it's interesting. Even though, and this is going to rip your heart even more, Aaron. 80% do not believe the Expos are coming back to Montreal.
What?
79% don't think the Nordiques are going to come back to Quebec City. However, 71% of respondents do not believe a third link of any kind will ever be completed between Quebec City and Lévis. 63% are saying that the new roof for the Olympic Stadium will never happen. And let's just sum everything up with a nice drum roll. 63% say the Northvolt project is dead in the water. Wow. That is not going to happen. That, to me, my friend, would seem to suggest there's a real crisis of credibility on the part of the Legault government, or indeed, as we also like to refer to it, François Legault. And to be sure, when his political opponents are saying he doesn't have credibility, I think they're onto something. And that, I find, that scares the bejesus out of me. Because, Aaron, when these guys know they got nothing to lose, who knows what they're capable of?
It's interesting when you put it that way, right? I mean, this belief that this government really can't get a whole lot right. And it's funny, did you see the headline yesterday, Jim, on Northvolt? One of their divisions has now declared bankruptcy?
Yeah, in Sweden. It's like, the scene in Holy Grail with the Black Knight, and he gets his arm lopped off, and it's like, oh, it's just a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound,
Every time there's this terrible news, I wish nothing but well for Northvolt. I think they're on the right side of history. But for crying out loud, the news is nothing but bad. They say, well, don't worry about it. Well, no, we have no problems here. We're completely blah, 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 blah. Hey, get real, man. When you get 3 or 4 or 5 or 12 hints, something's up, trust me, something's up.
It's a mere flesh wound to both legs and both arms.
Yeah.
Okay. Quebec continues to wage war on English language universities, so let's get into it. I brought this up today, and I will bring it again up when we get done here. I'm not buying a word Jean-François Robert says here, right? This idea, are McGill and Concordia targeted? And, of course, the answer is, well, of course not. But bottom line, Jim, we all know that's the case here. I will point out, by the way, and maybe you can tell me if I'm off base here, we know from Concordia how much money was lost. We know how much enrollment is down. Yeah. We know bishops had to go above and beyond just to try to hang in there. And still, they apparently saw a reduction in enrollment as well. Yeah. But did McGill's numbers go up? Is that what the minister was referring to when did you hear that today?
I didn't hear that. All I heard was that, the idea, and they were saying, well, we're not targeting Anglo institutions. There's a lot of schools out there who are taking advantage of things. They're bringing in so-called foreign students, but they're looking for permanent or temporary resident status, blah, 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 blah. As you say, it's all rubbish. The entire CAC policy towards higher education in all of Quebec, and I'll explain that in a second, but higher education in all of Quebec, it all boils down to Jean-François Robert saying there's too much English being spoken in downtown Montreal. Because remember, a year ago, when they announced the full frontal assault on McGill, on Concordia, on bishops, the rationale was we want to make sure that foreign students do not get sucked into the English sector. We want that money to go to the French sector because it's underfinanced, and it's scandalous. Okay? But here's the problem. Now they're saying we're going to be reducing across the board these numbers. In other words, screw the French universities. They don't need that money. The idea here, and he hasn't said it out loud, so I'll say it for him, is that too much damn English is being spoken in downtown Montreal. End of story. And you're 100% right. When he's there, when he's asked point blank, are you targeting Anglo institutions? And he begins by saying, we have a duty to protect French. All bets are off. And once again, it is absolutely terrifying to me, Aaron. We're stuck with these lunatics for another 2 years, and who knows? We'll get rid of them. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. But in the meantime, as I've said before, how much damage, perhaps how much irreparable damage, are these clowns going to do before they finally get swept out of office?
So for people who did not hear this, here is Robert's, this is the actual question being asked of him, right, explaining this.
The government has a duty to promote and ensure the vitality of the French language, of course, and to do everything in its power to reverse the decline that we know now. But we didn't target any university, and we won't do so.
That's kind of like, it wasn't on purpose, just collateral damage in a sense, right? Yeah. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. From week to week, this government's changed its story most outrageously on any number of topics.
All right, let me get to this other story. You ask here if Legault just got overruled by his own government. What's this in relation to, Jim?
It's funny you mentioned that, Aaron, because this is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. Last Friday, we were all, of course, paying attention to that horrible fire in Old Montreal. But the other thing that happened that day was the Legault government defending the interests of the Quebec nation, of the Legault nation, made sure that the recently adopted federal dental plan for low-income earners and seniors did not apply in Quebec public institutions, did not apply in long-term facilities, did not apply in any health center in Quebec. It was a clear violation and interference in Quebec's jurisdiction, and Quebec only wants to have monetary compensation in lieu of this ridiculous federal program. On veut rien savoir. That was on Friday. Yesterday, Jagmeet Singh, whose party pushed the whole dental care plan through Parliament, turns around and basically says he describes Legault as being cruel, unfair, petty, you name it, and quite rightly pointing out that here's this little, strutting two-bit premier running around, thumping his chest, when in fact, and I hate to say it, I think most people agree, dental hygiene is not Quebec is not a showcase for dental hygiene. We need all the help we can get. And dental associations in Quebec were going to the roof when the government announced this. Well, guess what? Today, and interestingly, not from François Legault, but from Christian Dubé himself, it's like, no, we're going to use this. We have negotiations are going on with a lot of worker compensation, but it will be applicable in Quebec health centers. So you go from Friday where it's, no freaking way, to like shrugging on Thursday, going, yeah, okay, no, it's going to happen. That's where we are, and that's what I mean when I say how much damage are these posturing little morons going to do between now and October of 2026. That's what scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, but Jim, how do you really feel?
Oh, come on, man. I have never, I've been doing this all my life.
I know.
No, have you? I know you're a news junkie. And has anyone ever seen this much petty incompetence, this much surly, divisive, populist, a la Trump garbage compressed into 6 years of Quebec history? I've never seen it this bad. I've seen the Liberals and the pecks at each other's throats, and even then it was more ideological. Even then, when the factory whistle blew, people would sort of like let go of each other's throats and go for a beer. It's not like that anymore. François Legault has a holy mission to eliminate as much English as possible in Quebec. Okay? That's how he protects French. He eliminates English. The guy is clueless when it comes to administering our education department. Indeed, we get the evidence of that every day. And now, as I've said earlier this week, when we look at him on the whole immigration file, people who should be working with him in the National Assembly are kind of looking, giving him the side eye, going, "Is this guy for real? Is he really? Did he really say that?" Because we take all the things I've put together in this segment, Aaron. When you've got that loss of credibility, when you've got that loss of any kind of positiveness about the future, like I say, the next 24 months are going to be very, very difficult for all of us.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.
Madam.